So I'm going to stay true to my word, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to Ignite Your Curiosity Education Edition. Tonight we have panelists from different areas of education that will be visiting with you. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions. When you do ask the questions, please go down and use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And as we go along, I'll read those questions off to our panelists so they can address those curiosities that you might have. I'd like to also point out that after tonight, feel free to visit our website. You can either take a screenshot of the window right now, or maybe even use your camera, take a picture. On our website, we've got all kinds of resources for you, everything from CTE to our Link Learning Academies, how to apply to college scholarships, everything you can think of. So take a few minutes when you have a chance and please go ahead and explore that. So now that we have everyone ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and ask our panelists to go ahead and turn on their video and their microphones. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate your time. So we've got all areas of education represented tonight, and we really appreciate that. I'd like to go around and have each of you introduce yourselves and let us know exactly what area of education you're in and what that entails for you. So, Jonna, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. My name's Jonna Rasner, and I am currently a school vice principal. And this is my second year in administration. And before that, I was a teacher for 20 years. I taught in Los Angeles for many years and then settled in the Central Valley and worked as a teacher in Lindsay and had a great experience out there. I did grow up in Visalia. Went to Washington Elementary and then went to Valley Oak Middle School. And then I kind of struggled through high school. So I wasn't a kid that did great in high school. I was a kid that really struggled. But I loved learning. And so I started high school or college early. I started college when I was 16 and got a degree from UC in chemistry. I loved math and science and thought I was going to be a chemist and be a scientist. And I liked chemistry as a job, but I wasn't totally fulfilled. And I was talked into teaching. I actually said that I would never be a teacher. And was talked into teaching, and I knew the first week in teaching that was where my passion was, and that's where I wanted to serve. And so I've been doing that ever since. And I've absolutely loved my job, especially in the last 2 years. I've loved serving in this capacity. It's really wonderful to give back to my community. My administrators when I was growing up were really important to me. I spent a lot of time in the administration department at my schools. So it's wonderful to be in their shoes and to help children who struggle.
Jonna, thank you. I know you have an incredible story, and I love the fact that you're here tonight sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me here.
Ben, would you like to tell us a little about your story?
Sure, I'm just double checking to make sure I'm not on mute. I am that guy. I'm still
You're good.
I'll go all over. So my name is Ben Bolin. I was raised in Austin, Texas. I have a bachelor's in Spanish and international business. I got into education. Well, I've always known that I was supposed to work in education since I was a little kid. I had fantastic teachers. I could go back and name you all of my elementary school teachers, and they had a huge impact on me. So I did take a little detour, like I said, a bachelor in Spanish and international business, moved to California and ended up getting my teaching credential. I started my teaching career as a kindergarten teacher in Lindsay. So Jonna, I don't know what years you were there, but I taught kindergarten for 4.5 years in Lindsay. Best grade ever. If you are considering teaching, gotta teach kindergarten for at least a year. You'll love it. You'll be tired at the end of every day, but you'll love it. It is awesome. Let's see, taught 3rd grade, moved to Visalia Unified as a 3-4 combo teacher, then taught 4th grade, I then had a chance to go work with the migrant program at the district office for a while. Really enjoyed working with our migrant families. Then I got into school psychology, and that's what I get to do now. I'm a school psychologist, and it is fantastic. I think that there is so much that we can do to support kids. I was going to jump to another part of the question that you have, but that's what I get to do now, and I do absolutely love what I get to do as a school psychologist.
So Ben, so some students might know what a school psychologist is and does.
Sure.
Others may not. So can you kind of give them a little more in depth of what a school psychologist does, and maybe even contrast it with what a school counselor does?
Sure. So actually, my master's is in school psychology and school counseling. So I had a chance to really learn about both different perspectives. So as a school psychologist, what I get to do is I get to advocate for students, and I get to advocate for their learning, and I get to advocate for whatever types of supports that they may need. And there's quite a few different things that I get to do on a daily basis. I'll start off with the thing that probably takes up the majority of my time is I do get to complete assessments for students who are struggling with their learning. So if there is a student that for one reason or another is really struggling to make connections with whatever topic that they're learning at the time, it might be difficulties with math, might be difficulties with reading, might be difficulties with reading comprehension. But if they're having a difficulty, and if the school has put into place interventions to help this student make progress, and that still hasn't worked, then I get to work with a student. There are some standardized, I don't like to call them tests. They're more like activities that I get to go through with the student to really kind of pinpoint how they learn best, and also to figure out where they struggle. So it could be that a student really has a tough time with auditory processing. So the information that's coming in, they're having a tough time deciphering everything there. So we'll work with that student to identify the difficulty that they're having, and then we work with the teacher and perhaps even a special education teacher to put into place supports for that student. So that takes up a large part of what I get to do. I also get to check in with students that might be having difficulties that are impacting their learning. Maybe it's a tough situation at home. Maybe it's a tough situation with other students at school. So I get to do check-ins like that. What else can I tell you? Really, basically, my job is to step in and help students be successful. I think that's to kind of put it in a nutshell. Does that kind of cover it, Paige? I'm kind of rambling now.
I think that's a good summary.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm sure our students have heard about school psychologists, but kind of understanding what that really means. Yeah, I think that gets a clearer definition.
It covers a lot of ground too. In some school districts, a school psych will primarily be concerned with assessment, right? In other districts, it may be a larger caseload where they're working on check-ins with students and supporting groups of students, maybe working on developing social skills or different coping skills that they need to work on. So school psychology covers a lot of ground on the map.
Yes, it does. No, I think you did a great job summing that up. Thank you. Angela, you've had many experiences. Right now, you're at the college level. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Yes, I'm an academic dean at College of Sequoias. And being an academic dean or a dean of any sort at the college level is sort of like being a principal for one segment of the school. And so the areas that I currently oversee are educational support services, which includes the library and all the library resources, tutorial programs. And I also am an academic dean over the language and communication division. So I work with faculty. I also have the health center. So I get to work with the physical health, the care that happens, as well as mental health, and our food pantry is also there. And what my day looks like, let me just tell you what I did today, and that'll give you a picture, because every day is very different, as I'm sure everyone here will tell you. But today I spent some time working on budgets for next year, trying to figure out how we're going to pay our tutors. I spent some time looking at class enrollments for this summer and for next year to see, are students signing up for classes? Do we have to add any classes because classes are filling up for either summer or fall? Are we in danger of having to close classes because there's not enough enrollment? And do I, I'll be watching those very carefully over the next couple weeks as we get ready to start summer session. I also spent some time today reaching out to faculty on what their needs might be for coming back to school in the fall. So our faculty have been teaching mostly remote. Actually, in my division, they've all been teaching remote. And in the fall, about 20% of our classes will be face-to-face. And so we're looking at things like, because in my division, we have American Sign Language, and we have Spanish and ESL and Portuguese. And so we're going to be ordering face masks that have clear, the clear plastic over the front so that students can see the instructors' mouths. So thinking about the safety equipment that we'll need for the fall. I spent a little time working with tutors, tutor coordinators on what their summer schedule was going to be. So there's just a wide, and I also worked with our personnel department a little bit to see, we have 3 positions that are open, so the hiring process is happening. So it's a little bit of everything, and every day is a new adventure. I try to have a list of my top 5 things that I want to get done, and then I cross my fingers that I can get them done in any given day. But it's everything from personnel to budgets to working. Sometimes I'll get a call from a student who has a concern about an instructor, and so I will work with that student to help resolve the concern that they have. So that's what my current world looks like these days.
And then prior to this, you can maybe speak to this to our audience as well. You were a high school principal, and before that, a Spanish teacher, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I was a high school principal for a few years. I was a middle school principal for a few years. I was a high school assistant principal for many years. That's adding up to a lot of years. And I taught Spanish for about 10 years. And so teaching Spanish, you guys are all in high school and you've probably taken Spanish classes. So, that's a lot of fun, getting to work with students directly every single day. Being an assistant principal, I was able to work with students who had different situations at school where maybe they got in trouble for something or they weren't coming to school, and my job was to kind of help sort through all that and figure out what needed to be done. I also would help in hiring teachers and doing professional development for teachers, developing the school schedule, so the schedule of classes that you all take. Why is my music class in this period, and why can't it be in that period? Because that's a better time of the day for me. I'm one of the people who helped make that happen, for better or worse, as an assistant principal. As a middle school and high school principal, all of the things that I described as a dean, working with budgets, personnel, looking at programs, looking at the needs of the school as a whole, and trying to work with the faculty and staff to solve those needs, to find ways to meet the needs of students. So sometimes it's mental health needs, like Mr. Bolin is working with. Sometimes it's academic needs, and students may need tutoring, or maybe there's something new happening with ways to teach a particular subject, and working with faculty to help give them resources on how to teach in ways that may help students learn more effectively. Working with parents was a big part of being a principal. both on an individual basis with the different situations or needs that their children had, and working with groups of parents like PTSA and school site council and English learner parents, or going to meetings with boosters, sports boosters or band boosters. And then a big part of both of those jobs as principal was just being present where things were happening with students, going to games, going to concerts, going to the musicals, the plays, lots of nights out at really fun events, watching students, do the things that they love doing. So a lot of fun in those jobs, a lot of hours. I would say as a high school principal, my work week was probably 70 hours plus Monday through Friday. That's not counting Saturday and Sunday. But it's definitely very fulfilling and very fun. I have not yet had a job more fun than being a principal.
So now that you're at the college, because I agree with what you say, when you are a high school principal or vice principal, learning director, you are married to that school. There's a lot of night hours that people don't realize that go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that lightens a little bit, I think, with middle school and maybe a little more so with the elementary.
Definitely.
Do you find at the college level that you're having to do as many night commitments?
Not at all, actually. Well, we're kind of in a strange time. So I don't have the requirements to be at many night events. We have board meetings that happen once a month, and those are early evening. In normal times, I just personally like to go to student events. So when I first started before COVID happened, I was routinely going to the basketball games, and I was really looking forward to getting out to baseball games and, track meets and softball games and everything in the springtime. But it wasn't an obligation for me in my particular position. That was something more the president or the vice president would be obligated to do.
It just gives you good perspective too, though, family life tied in and kids of your own, and then the hours that go into it. It's just something to definitely be aware of.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Patrick, you are our representative for the high school teachers.
Yeah, hello. My name is Patrick Hemphill. I'm also kind of like John, born and raised Visalian. I grew up in Visalia, went to Mountain View and Divisadero, and actually Mount Whitney. So I didn't go too far. Unlike others, I did not have any clue what I wanted to do as a profession when I was growing up and in high school. I went away to school in Santa Barbara and got a degree in biology. I also spent my summers though working at a camp up in the mountains above Oakhurst. And so my summers were spent lifeguarding and doing some other things, but also being sort of lead counselor, working primarily with junior high and high school. And so when I finished college, I had no clue what I wanted to do. And so I take that back. For a year, I interned at a church as an interim youth director. And so in that turn, I kind of found my, I knew the age group. I knew that I wanted to work with kids. I didn't know in what capacity exactly. And so teaching kind of made sense. So I spent a year getting my teaching credential and subbing, which then added to my sort of experiences. And I, unlike Ben, would never find myself in a kindergarten classroom. I taught kindergarten once. And as you said, you should teach kindergarten once. And I taught it once. And that was enough for me personally. So I prefer the other end of the spectrum. My first job was in Dinuba for 1 year as a 7th grade teacher. And I've spent, I don't know, I think I'm on my 20th year, something like that at Mount Whitney. Taught biology and anatomy and physiology. And I took on a new challenge this year, strange year to do that. But I got my CTE credential recently, which is career technical ed, different sort of credential than biology, more of a work-based thing. You guys in high school kind of know that, but I'm teaching photography and yearbook. So this is my first year teaching those new subjects. I'm teach biology in summer school again, so I'm still keeping that end of things up. But yeah, I have a new gig. So I'm teaching yearbook in a year where there's no pictures to take. So it's kind of a fun year to make that transition. But yes, I'm back at Mount Whitney, actually. That's where I teach now. So I'm graduated from Mount Whitney and I've taught there now for 20 years. So That's
Very
right.
good. Very good. Well, I know you were a favorite of the students when I was at Whitney, so you couldn't go wrong when we put kids in your class. And I think that kind of goes back to all of you. I would say you're all people persons. You like to work with people. You like it to be social. And that's kind of reflected into the relationships that you build at the campuses that you work. Let's move on to the next question. I think you may have each of you may have touched on it a little bit, but if there's something that you want to add a little more in depth to it, we can go there with it. And that question is, what education, training, internships did you complete? Patrick, let's keep with you for a second. You were just saying that you finished your CTE credential. So talk about your regular credential versus what took for your CTE.
Okay, yeah. So for my first credential was in single subject science, and so basically what that entailed was me getting a degree in science. I had to pass way back when in the late 90s some tests to show that I knew something about science and that my degree wasn't just a big fake for 4 years. And so once I passed those tests, and I applied to a teaching credential program. I had a year of teaching, or a year of college beyond my bachelor's degree. So I did my undergrad, my 4 years, got my science degree, and then the year I spent subbing, I took night classes and did my teaching credential. And so it was one extra year past my regular college to get my teaching credential, and at the same time, like I said, pass some of these tests, and that got me my first credential, just basically. With my CTE credential is a little different. CTE credentials entail more job experience than just like I have to go to school and have my biology degree. So I spent to get the CTE credential, I spent a couple years working in my field, doing photography, working for some different people, working for myself, and actually participating in that career. And because I was already a teacher, I was lucky. It made it easier for me to get a CTE credential. I didn't have to go retake all of the teaching classes. I really just needed to build the experience in that particular job field and then apply. And I have one class to take, and someone comes and observes me this year, and then my credential will be done and cleared and good to go. So it's a little easier to get that type of, it's a little different path to get that type of credential. Job experience is more important than just having a degree in something.
Thank you. Jonna, how about yourself? Because you said that you first started out in chemistry, working in the industry. So what credentials did you receive, and what was that path like?
Yeah, so the neat thing about teaching is you can have a degree in anything really, as long as you can pass the tests to get in. It's kind of like law school or medical school. So I had a degree in chemistry, and so I had to get my teaching credential to start teaching. And I received my teaching credential through a really great program through Los Angeles Unified School District. I started in 1999, and at that time there was a teacher shortage. So it was a free program, and they offered the program to people who wanted to become teachers who passed the initial, what they call CSET test now. So I did that program, and it was an internship program. It was really great, hands-on. It was a 3-year program. So we were teaching, all of us in our cohort were teaching in our classrooms and learning at the same time. So it was really wonderful because we could take what we were learning and apply it the next day in our classrooms, and we could struggle together our first 3 years of teaching together and learn together. So I received my teaching credential through Los Angeles Unified. And then after I got my credential and taught for many, many years, just recently, a couple of years ago, I went back to school to get my administrative credential. So you have to have a separate credential to become an administrator. And it's kind of the same thing. I did an internship, got my credential. The interesting thing about admin credentials is it takes you about a year to get an administrative credential, but you have to clear the credential. They call it a clearing process. And that takes 2 years. So that's interesting to me that it takes 2 years to clear it, but only a year to receive it. And I think I learned more in my administrative credential program than anything that I had done previously. Maybe it's just my age or my maturity level now, and I enjoyed learning the material. So I kind of have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's of science, a 4-year degree. I have a multi-subject teaching credential, so I can teach in a self-contained classroom. And then now I have this administrative credential. So I can be an administrator, I believe, in any setting, elementary, middle school, high school.
Very good. That's a lot of school.
It's a lot of school, but it was spread out, and I enjoyed all the schooling, so.
That helps. That helps.
Enjoy learning.
Ben, in terms of the school psychologist, I mean, because you started out with your teaching credentials, so you went through what Jonna and Patrick did.
Yeah.
But then the school psychologist, what did that entail?
So that was going back and enrolling in a master's program at Fresno Pacific. And you complete the coursework, you go through a practicum and an internship experience. And those are basically opportunities for you to actually get out in the field to work with students under the supervision of a school psychologist. So they're helping you identify exactly what assessments you would want to you would want to administer to a student. They're helping you administer the assessment if needed, helping you go through the results and really identify the difficulties and the strengths that the student has, and then helping you, go through your write-up, the report that you build at the end, and then the presentation of that report to parents and teachers and admin. So, yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I did a program like Jonna did, Cal State Teach, when there was a huge teacher shortage. So it's a kind of a baptism by fire, like you're just dropped into a classroom, but it was a ball. It was a lot of fun. And I guess for me, the thing that I'm really thankful for is opportunities to be able to get my feet wet. And yeah, there were mistakes that I made as a teacher. There were mistakes I made as a school psych, but when you've got someone there looking over your shoulder saying, hey, next time think about this or think about that, I feel like I was pretty well prepared. So
That sounds great. Angela, I know you've got your teaching credential, you've got your admin credential for K through 12, but at the college level, there's typically not a credential program that you go through to become an administrator. So how does one become an administrator in college? Oh, mute. You're muted.
I am muted. I'm the winner. I was the first one to speak on mute. So at the college level, there really isn't a credential. Typically, administrators will need to have at least a master's degree in some subject, and then they're really just looking for experiences that match the area of that a person's going to oversee. The kinds of administrative jobs that exist at the college level look a little bit different. The entry level on the academic side is typically a director. So you might be a director of like the health center, or there's a director who oversees the health center who manages the day-to-day operation of the health center. There's a director over the library. And within an academic division, the teaching division, this isn't an administrative position, but it is technically, but in actuality, a lot of the work is administrative in nature, and that's the job of the division chair. The division chair is actually a faculty teacher, but they do a lot of administrative type of work. They'll help with ordering things, they help develop the schedule, they take a lot of leadership in hiring and mentoring new faculty and things of that nature. At the dean's level, it's typical to have a master's degree, as I said. It's not at a community college, it's not required that you have a PhD. And even at the four-year university, I don't know that it's required that you have a PhD, but definitely the higher you go up in higher ed, so moving out of community college into a four-year college, and you know, a Cal State versus a UC. The competition gets tougher, and typically the candidates who win positions are going to be people who have doctorates in different subject areas.
So everything in discussions with those that I've had at the community college level or the CSU system, it's a very competitive field to get into. So if you're going through college and you're thinking that you want to go into education at college level, what type of things would you suggest students do?
Well, there at the college level to teach, there's actually a handbook in California called the Minimum Qualification Handbook, and it describes the specific educational background that a person has to have for any given position. So even, for example, a tutor coordinator, the person who oversees the tutoring, one of the tutoring programs, needs to have a master's degree in the area that is being tutored. So really you would want to pursue a master's degree that matches the specific area you want to get into as a faculty member, or you might enter as a non-management position as, let's say, a coordinator. Or, you know, my experience at College of Sequoia is that there's a lot of development of personnel from within the organization. So people who may come in as a grant specialist, or as a administrative assistant or a secretary of some sort, you know, when they show that potential and interest to do more, then we typically help guide them to education that they might need to enable them to do more, and you know, jobs, you know, encourage them to pursue jobs that allow them to do more.
I know coming out of my master's, I was lucky enough to get on at COS for a while, and I was doing adjunct. So for our students out there that aren't aware of that, it's basically you're a part-time teacher. So you get to get your feet wet. And that was a great experience, kind of just learning what that meant and how to go forward.
Right. And that's typically the pathway for anyone who wants a full-time teaching position, a faculty position, either as a faculty instructor or as a faculty counselor. You know, we have adjuncts that really are working more than full-time, because they're working, you know, teaching a couple classes for COS, they're teaching a couple classes for Porterville, they're teaching a couple classes for Reedley College, and between all of those, they are teaching full-time or even more than full-time, while they are, you know, looking for those full-time faculty positions to open up. The faculty positions don't open up nearly as frequently as, say, a high school teaching position or an elementary or middle school teaching position. As an illustration, when I was a high school principal, it was pretty routine for me to hire 15 or 20 teachers each year. College of Sequoias this last year hired 8 for you know, and this is for a school of 16,000 compared to a high school of 2,000. So really those full-time positions are hard to come by. They're very competitive. And so, you know, I just say for, you know, teaching and administration and being a faculty at the college level, you know, my best advice is do a great job at whatever job you're in. Do a great job at being a student. Do a great job if you're a student teacher. You know, learn and do your best. And as you move into any other position, really, we're always looking for the people who are giving it their best effort, who are willing to try things that may be hard to do, and are willing to go above and beyond in whatever it is you're doing. Those are the people that I've seen as a high school administrator, a middle school administrator, a school district administrator, and now here at the college level, who really are the ones who advance in any organization.
That's really good advice. So embrace and go. It's been a long day already. My tongue's not working.
Go the extra mile and
go full into it. Okay, so the next question was, what does a typical day look like? But I think all of you kind of touched on that lightly. So I'm going to skip to the next one. So your favorite part of the job and your least favorite part of the job. So Patrick, do you want to start us out?
Sure. My favorite part of the job is like, I think you said it well, Paige. I mean, I like people. I like high schoolers. I like the relationship part, and that's why I teach, is really being in class, being engaging, having fun with the students, learning in that way. That, for me, that's what really makes the job. I like science too, and I like photography, and I like yearbook. Those are definitely things that are important. Obviously, the learning is a key thing, but it's always kind of been my MO as you follow my jobs through college and so forth, that I like people. I like high schoolers. I like junior hires, and that's sort of why I chose the profession I'm in. And so the day-to-day interactions and that are the best part for me. As far as what I don't like, it's sometimes I would say is what I don't like, and sometimes what I do like, and that's that things change all the time and constantly. So there's good and there's bad to that. It keeps things fresh. There's always a new challenge. There's always something else happening, but in the same turn, something's always changing, and there's always something new, and there's always something that has to be implemented and done, and this and that. And so education is a field where it's never dull. Nothing ever stays the same, which keeps it interesting, but also sometimes makes it a little bit of a headache, I would say.
So you would say be flexible.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, be open to change. How about for you, Ben?
There, now I'm unmuted. Let's see here. I guess for me, I'm kind of like Patrick. I like people. I really enjoy working with kids. I think the thing that I like the most is just building connections with students, and I have to build a connection with students. I have to build connections with families in order to really get the story and enable to really get down to difficulties that a student may be having in the classroom, or the difficulties that a student may be having at home. I also really love it when we peg it just right. Right? When we really are able to pinpoint exactly what that difficulty is, and then you get to circle back into that classroom in a couple of weeks, a month or so, and you can see that there's just a different look on this kid's face as things are implemented that really are making a difference for them. So I love that. I like people. I'll just leave it at that. I like people.
So would you say, I know with school psychologists, it's a little different. As a school counselor, when I was at a school site, sometimes because the number of kids you're interacting with, you're giving it a lot of information and helping kids. I always felt like I was planting seeds.
Yes.
I didn't always get to see those seeds develop. Yeah. And so it was always really nice to run into people after they graduated and they said, that did make a difference, or this is where I'm at. Yeah. But you don't always get that instant feedback of what you're doing and if it's making the impact you think it is. Would you agree?
Yep, some things are definitely a process. Yeah, most definitely. You don't always get the results you want, and sometimes it's you put a couple things in place and those things don't have the results that you want. So you go in and you watch the situation, you take some more data, you backtrack, and you come at whatever that difficulty is from another angle. So yeah, you don't always get the immediate results that you want, but yeah, you are definitely planting seeds. In terms of my least favorite thing, I'm a slow typist, guys. Learn to type. Me and my reports, man, let me just tell you about all the results, right? That's the one, and really even writing my reports, I do like, because I get to go back and I get to think about the interactions that were had with that student. I get to point out the really cool things that they did, or the things that were a little bit puzzling and that we really want to figure out a little bit better. So even that I like. I'm just kind of slow on the keyboard. So.
Good advice.
Learn to type.
Angela, how about for you? Favorite thing and least favorite thing?
My favorite thing, I love people. I love working with people. My favorite thing about working in the different jobs that I've had in my current job is helping people become, I want to say more, not that they're not a lot, they are, but helping people become more than what maybe they thought they could be. You know, whether it's as an individual in their same position, as a student, as a teacher, as an admin, or helping them to see potential that takes them beyond where they currently are. I just love, you know, fostering leadership and advancement in students and faculty and administrators. And that's really, you know, one of my, probably my biggest passion. What I really don't like in my administrative jobs is giving people news that I know they're not going to like. And that's one of the hard parts about administration, is that you do make hard decisions, and sometimes they're heartbreaking. Sometimes they are life-changing, and you know, you're the one who has to deliver that message to the parent. Sometimes it's the parent, sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's an administrator, and it, you know, that's really not fun. And you know, you just, there's no getting around it. You're the one, so you have to do it. So that's the part I would say I like the least.
Yeah, I understand that. Jonna, how about you?
It's really nice to listen to all of you speak. I have to say, just pulling out of this forum for a second, it's nice to hear you talk, because I connect with what you're saying so much. I think my favorite part of my job is the kids. I love greeting our kids every morning and welcoming them to our campus and watching them grow from being a 4-year-old TK student into a graduating 8th grader, and getting to know all of their families and just experiencing their lives for so many years, because we get to have our kids, some of our kids we get to have for 9-10 years. And we get to know the families really intimately during that time. We go through struggles with them and we go through celebrations. So just the intimacy of a K-8 school, and the shared families and friendships is really wonderful to watch. We don't get to watch them graduate from high school, but eventually we do, right? So kind of on the seed vein, we get to connect. I have this visual of a canyon, and we have to get these kids across the canyon, right? And in a TK-8 school, we just add links to their chain to get across the canyon. So watching kids grow, and especially my most favorite part is to watch struggling kids be successful. That is so rewarding, and so it just makes my job so worth all of the energy and time. I will take memories of a few kids all the way to my grave. Just wonderful celebrations of success of kids who I really didn't think were going to be able to make it, who did. So that's really wonderful. I think my least favorite part, I don't know, I'm an optimist to a fault, so it's really hard for me to say that difficult things are my least favorite, because I learn from everything, right? I take struggles and I learn from them. I would agree with Angela. Sometimes news is not very pleasant to give to people, but you have to give it. Sometimes there's traumatic events that kids experience that will keep you up at night. That is sometimes hard to take, because I'm super empathetic towards people and I don't want anyone to hurt or be in pain, but you do have to be able to handle those moments of pain and hurt in families, especially in the last couple of years. There's been a couple of really difficult situations, but you also grow as a human in that too. The stress of the job can be a bit much at times, because the school is your responsibility as a school administrator. So there's not really like a next person to go to. You know, I can't go to my administrator. Yeah, I am the administrator. Yeah, sometimes it can keep you up at night too, and you know, you have to make the choices, like Angela said. So being in such big shoes sometimes for me can be daunting even. You know, I feel like most of the time I have my act together and I'm doing great, but there are moments where I have to stop and pause and go, wow, I'm a big girl and I have an important job. So it can be a little bit daunting, but the good in all of that is wonderful too.
So it makes the stress worth it, you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Good, good. Okay, so thinking back, are there any regrets or things that you would do different? And I keep in mind though, I mean, I know we learn from our experiences and our mistakes. And so if you were able to go back and change things, would you still want it to lay out the same way it has? Or is there another turn you would have taken?
Guessing that was me.
I hit mute too fast, sorry.
Sounded like me. Just wanted to make sure. I thought about when you were mentioning the questions to us earlier, and it's so hard to imagine what the one thing maybe I would have done sooner. I didn't realize when you're in high school and college, like I was ready to be done. Like I was ready to be done with high school. I was ready to get my years of college done. I didn't always take advantage of the opportunities I had and those things to like learn. I was like in that mode of, okay, I'm pushing through my years to get done. And when I became a teacher, I actually kind of realized I actually kind of like learning. Like I really enjoy getting to know more stuff and learning. And it's a great profession to be in because there's always something new to learn about and to challenge yourself in different ways. And so maybe the one thing I would have changed, I eventually did go back and get my master's degree later on, but anything that you're interested in learning, I would always say if you have the opportunity to do it and it makes sense for you, spend that time, because I could have done it at any time and kind of gone back and extended my learning. And it took me a long time to figure out that I really liked that. When I did it, I was like, this is so great. I love being back in the classroom, and I would go do that more and more if I could. So any opportunity you have to do that, I passed up on some that I could have and eventually figured it out. But it's kind of interesting if you do pursue becoming a teacher of some kind. I think you kind of get past that point of where you start to actually learn and for the reasons that you should be learning, and you start to enjoy that more as you see students and as you get to participate in that on a daily basis. So take those opportunities. That would be what I would have done more probably.
I think that's a great point too. And when you're young, you feel like you've got to get life started. You don't realize you can take your time and go slower and enjoy the moments and embrace them. Angela, how about you? Anything you would do different? Any regrets?
I don't think I have any regrets. I really love what I've been able to do, and I do see that, you know, there were choices and there were sacrifices that I made. You know, being an administrator when you have children in school means that that's time that you're not home with your children. I was very fortunate to have a very, very supportive husband and a very, very supportive in-law family who, you know, was there. So I never felt like my children didn't have family time. It's just that I wasn't at home as much as, you know, a lot of other moms were typically. But I also had some flexibility in my job as an administrator that I could take off from work at 3 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon to go to one of my kids' games. Whereas if I had been a teacher at that time, you know, getting a substitute to come and cover my class for an hour is sometimes harder to do. So, you know, just being aware that there are choices and every choice has its good and bad outcome. I would echo what Patrick says, take advantage of the opportunities to do things that are unique to the place that you're in. And so, you know, as a high school student, I think about things like being in clubs, or if you're an athlete, you know, should I stay with my sport one more year or should I get a job? And, you know, I go back to my high school years, and I made the choice at 16 to, actually, I didn't make the choice. I didn't make the team, and therefore, and I didn't go out for the team I could have made, and I started working. And I think that, you know, I realize now that for many athletes and musicians and, you know, people who are in that kind of world, high school might be the last opportunity you have to really deeply engage in those activities. And so if that's something that you really enjoy, you know, do it for as long as you can. Not everyone has a chance to continue to be an athlete when they get to college. Not everyone has the chance to be part of an organized musical group or drama group production when they go to college. So, you know, really grab those opportunities while you're in high school and stick with them for as long as you really feel like you want to. And, you know, put off the getting the job for, you know, if you're able, and not everyone is able to. And I was one who probably wasn't really able to either. But if you can, if that's a choice, I really do encourage you to make the choice to stick with those activities for the fun of it, not because it looks great on your resume and not because, you know, it's going to help you get into this college, but because those are fun experiences that you will never get to replicate in the same way after high school, and for some lucky people after college. So that would be my, you know, reflecting back.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And I think also that exploration, doing the sports, doing the music, you get to learn more about yourself as well. And as you get to know yourself, it makes it easier to pick what the right career is as well. And just that chance to be a kid too. Okay, so it's been like I said, a busy Monday. Jonna, did I get you yet on your regrets?
No, not yet.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Tag, you're it.
I don't have any regrets either. Like I said, I'm optimistic to a fault. So I think that our path that we choose is what it is. And so no regrets, but I do wish that I would have slowed down a little bit when I was younger, because I felt obligated to work really hard and check boxes. And so I didn't, like Patrick said, I didn't really see college as a place to learn. I saw it as a place to get a degree. And I think our society really stresses that now, that you need to get a degree. But you also, in getting a degree, the purpose is to learn and have some fun. So I always took too many classes. I always stressed about grades. And I didn't really take time to enjoy and relax. You know, the saying, stop and smell the roses. Well, learning to do that now at the age I'm at, I'm just in this pandemic learning how to do that. And it's wonderful. I've never experienced it before. So I think just slowing down and knowing that you have time, there's no rush in college. There's no rush in a career. Yes, you need to work and make some money. I had to work all through college, but there's no rush to decide on a career or become something.
Yeah.
There's also no rush to go straight to a four-year university. That's a big, Paige and I have talked about this several times. I could get on a soapbox about it. There's a lot of pressure for kids to go straight to a four-year university out of high school. And that's not the path that everybody takes. And personally, I don't think it's the best path. I think that going to COS and for free for 2 years and then going to a university is the best route. And it's slower and it's calmer and class size is smaller and you get a well-rounded education and you get to have some fun and learn and make more friends. So I think that's the only thing I would do differently is just slow down, although I'm learning that now. So it's never too late to learn. But I don't have regrets. Yeah.
Yeah, but good point. I remember doing the same thing, rushing through college, thinking I need to get all the requirements done and hurry, and this is costing my parents tuition, and I need to hurry up and get through. And afterwards regretting that there were things that I didn't experience. So excellent point. Ben, your turn.
Guys, I'm in complete agreement with you. I feel like I had a very similar experience to you guys. I took AP classes in high school, went in with 24 hours of credit, was done in 3.5 years with a bachelor's in Spanish International Business, worked full time. Guys, slow down, play the sports, join the clubs, do the drama, do the stuff. And all of that stuff is really going to help you figure out what matters to you. And it's going to really help you narrow down exactly what you want to get started on for the rest of your life. And sometimes even that, once you get started on that, it may open up another door for you. And you may go down that road. And I can say that's kind of my experience. Part of me, in terms of regrets, part of me says, man, I would have been such a fantastic, I feel like I was a good kindergarten teacher, but I think that was just enthusiasm and energy, right? But if I had known more about behavior, if I had known more about reinforcement, if I had really known how to identify difficulties that some kiddos will have as they're learning, if I had known all of that as a school psych first and then gone into teaching kindergarten, I could have been fantastic. That's not the way it worked out, right? And I guess the point in that is, yeah, you may figure out, hey, this is what I want to do, and then as you get into that, you may find another little offshoot of that that you really want to go into. But again, man, slow down, play the sports, do the stuff, because it really does turn you into who you are. And helps you figure out what it is that makes you happy. And if you're happy, you're going to be so much more productive.
Yeah, agreed. Paige,
can
yeah.
I add a comment? I think this is really important for anyone who's thinking about education, is that, sometimes students think that their teachers were really great at their subject when they were in high school. And I will tell you from having been able to observe many, many teachers that some of the best teachers were really great at whatever they taught back when they were in high school. But many others were not so good at it when they were in high school. And sometimes the not being really excellent at a subject helps them be a better teacher, because they understand the struggles, they understand, the things that trip students up when they're trying to learn that subject. So I would really encourage you that if you think you want to be a teacher, but maybe you're not doing as great in a particular subject as you think a future teacher ought to be doing, don't let that stop you, because, and everyone's nodding their head, we've seen great teachers come from both ends of the spectrum. It really is, do you have a passion for working with students and learning yourself? And if you have those two things, you can be a great teacher. And
Excellent
we'll work really hard.
Excellent points. Well, guys, we're almost at 7 o'clock here. Well, we're at 7 o'clock. So I want to go ahead and open up to our audience real quick and see if they have any questions. If you have a question, please go down to the Q&A and type it in. I'd be happy to ask our panelists the questions. In the meantime, I'm going to start saying my thank yous. I admire all of you in the fields that you're in, and I've worked with all of you. And I really appreciate your approach and your passion and love for the kids. So thank you for being here tonight and taking time to share that part of you with our students. So let me look down at the Q&A. Do we have any questions from our kiddos? Let's see. Not at this point. Okay, and that's okay. We've covered a lot of information tonight. And feel free to ask your teachers at school as well what their thoughts are, your school counselor, your school administrators. We're always needing teachers, especially here in Visalia. Math and science is great too. Math and science teachers are always needed. But thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to our panelists. And we will post this video to our YouTube channel and to our website, so you can review that or share it with your friends who maybe missed this evening. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye.